Gail, Mark, thank you so
Yes.
much for joining us today.
Absolutely.
Excited to dig into this. We're going to talk a little bit about how generative AI is going to accelerate personalization and sort of what it's doing to both of the businesses that you're representing. But Gail, I'd love to start with you. In your experience, how has the incorporation of AI impacted the decision-making process within your organization? And could you share some examples of how AI has led to better outcomes in both your business and for your customers?
Yes, absolutely. So for those who don't know, Stellantis is an automotive company, so better probably known for Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, 14 global brands. We just merged with a European company a few years ago, so we're absolutely a global company. And several years ago now, we really recommitted to our customer analytics. And what do we understand about our customer? What do they want from us? How can we improve the customer experience? And how can we really move into the next era of selling electric vehicles, of selling online, of revolutionizing how people buy cars? And so our leadership, really from the top down, got on board with the power of AI and being able to predict customer behavior, build recommendation engines, really enable us to automate and really make data-driven decisions. Automotive is a legacy industry. A lot has been done, just backroom deals, hunches. I think this is going to work. And now we're really coming into an era where we're using data to drive the business decisions, and it's really exciting.
And Mark, would you like to add anything there?
I think that, obviously this conversation is so timely because, ChatGPT, OpenAI has just really put AI at the forefront, which is exciting for all of us. But, from a data perspective, AI has been around for well over a decade. So we're honored at Treasure Data, which is an enterprise CDP, to work with companies like Stellantis and others to really take full advantage of this. I'll talk in a moment about some other kind of big changes in the marketing realm, but it's such an exciting time.
And Mark, I'd love to follow up on that. So Treasure Data works with a range of clients at different stages of AI adoption, as you just alluded to. In your experience, what are some of the most common roadblocks that companies face when implementing AI solutions, and how can they begin to overcome some of those?
Yeah, the shiny object syndrome is certainly present with AI like it's been with other technology revolutions. So people are excited, they're moving fast. I would just say slow down in order to speed up with AI. AI is an accelerator, and it's a question of what are you accelerating? Do you have your objectives clear? Do you know how you're going to measure it? Is your strategy in order? Do you have the right processes in place? And then you look at the role technology and AI can play. And if you're jumping in full throttle and you don't have all those foundational elements in place, you do risk going in the wrong direction. And it could potentially do more harm than good. So getting that foundation in order is really critical.
Now, you've both emphasize the significance of the human element when you're working with AI. So can both of you, just elaborate on the importance of maintaining a balance between automation and human oversight, particularly when it comes to making critical business decisions? Gail, let's start with you.
Yeah, so I think we've heard a lot already today about the fact that, especially for enterprise solutions, generative AI is really just now starting to get off the ground, especially in the customer space, the consumer space. There's a lot of sensitivity around customer data, how we're using it, the ethics behind how it's being used, but also just in general in solving business cases. The AI is not the be-all, end-all. You still need someone to help with the interpretation. What does this mean for my business? Is this the right solution? There are a lot of moving parts in a lot of these decisions. It's not just kind of very cut and dry, scientific, the model told me to do this, so it must be true. There's often a lot of other things that need to be considered, in which case you need a strategist behind the scenes saying, yep, this fits in with our overall goals as a company, or yep, this passes all the tests of how we're using our customer data appropriately. So you really need someone, I think, on that end where you're doing the interpretation and kind of doing that final sign off on it.
Do you think there's a greater need for human oversight in legacy industries such as automotive? Do you feel like the needs of a business like that are different than one that would be maybe digitally native or
I don't think so. Yeah, not necessarily. The challenge that we face is really marrying the offline experience from the customers with the online. So it can be challenging to combine those data sets into one. So it's not all digital. It's not all, yes, they, said I'll accept the cookies, and yes, they explicitly told me how I could use their data. So there's just more challenge there, I would say, when you have an offline experience and non-digital. And legacy systems and how that data has been managed over the long term also complicates the picture, but the fundamental problems are the same, I think.
Mark, do you have anything to add there about human oversight
Yeah.
and some of these?
Yeah, especially as it relates to generative AI, the human's in control, right? The AI is an assistant. I use Copy.ai and ChatGPT probably 5 or 6 times a day for all kinds of content creation projects. And at the end of the day, it's the human with the vision, the strategy, the editorial control. The human's making the call, right? The AI is a helper with that. So I just, that's how I use it. And I think a lot of other people are really starting to understand it. The human's in control and AI is an assistant.
Gail, can you share a specific example of how Stellantis has used Treasure Data's customer data cloud to achieve significant results in marketing campaigns?
Yeah, so a lot of what we've done is around customer personalization. So of course, the holy grail for us is getting to one-to-one personalization and positive customer experiences. So that means that we have to figure out exactly what our customer wants, what stage in the car buying journey they're in. So for example, it's a big, often household level decision to buy a car. So it's not just I'm on the site, it's an online retailer, I have like 5 purchases a week. We're sometimes talking about 1 purchase every 5 years for the whole family. So it's a big decision, so it can be hard to tell where in the journey someone even is. So some of what we've done is predicting when someone's going to be in market and how do you best tell. Because we don't want to bombard you if you're not in market, right? We want to be able to serve you up at the right time. We know that you're shopping, you're interested in this, and then we know something about you, so we're going to recommend a particular product from our lineup that we think is best suited for you. And then beyond that, it's like, what do you care about most in your car buying decision? Do you just care about getting a great deal? Are there certain capabilities of the vehicle you really care about? And then, of course, the post-purchase phase, we also have Mopar, which is our wonderful service and accessories business. We have a connected services business, so how you use the vehicle. So providing personalized recommendations, personalized offers, and personalized content on our digital platforms, that's really what we're leveraging our customer data platform to do.
And Mark, can you share maybe some insights that you've learned between in this partnership, and
Absolutely.
maybe if you could also use some examples that you've maybe carried over from other industries to this specific use case.
Yeah, I love the point that Gail just made around strategic personalization. Right, it's not a more is more game anymore. It's not let's send 30 personalized emails a month. It's let's send 1 or 2 that create an unforgettable experience with the consumer. Easier said than done, right? The question is, how do you do that at scale? And that's where AI and machine learning is the layer to make that happen. But in order to really leverage that, you have to have a strong data foundation, right? It all starts at that layer. In fact, that was a concept that was brought up on the prior session before we got on stage. And it's really that data layer that helps fuel the AI and machine learning, which then makes strategic personalization possible, which then creates an unforgettable moment with your consumer. So I love the example that Gail gave there. We have another customer, Yum Brands, of course, Taco Bell, KFC, and Pizza Hut, who is just doing a remarkable job of digitizing the restaurant experience for their consumers and fans across all those different brands. As you get into a large global organization with multiple brands in multiple geographies, the complexity just goes up and up, right? So having the data foundation and the AI rhythm in place it's a challenge for one brand in one region. When you look across a global ecosystem, it becomes increasingly harder. And those are actually the challenges that we love to tackle.
And so you just kind of alluded to this, but data quality and data management are crucial factors to the success of any AI project. How do you see these factors evolving in the context of AI and machine learning? And what challenges do businesses face when integrating AI into their data management strategies? So in essence, how do you bring together all of these disparate data sets? And do you have any advice maybe to give to companies that are starting to begin that journey?
Yeah, the first party data management challenge and opportunity has been around for a while, and it's come a long way for sure with advancements in core CDP. I think where it's going to get really fun is when you layer in generative AI in a CDP environment. So the whole premise of the CDP sector is let's build a platform that's easy for marketers to use, business people. You don't need to just be a data scientist to leverage the data and the insights. One of the things that we're working on with our roadmap is imagine if you could use a ChatGPT-like interface in your CDP. So you're talking to your CDP and you're saying, hey, you're smart, you see all the data. What are the insights? Can you frame that up for me? Sure, here you go. Okay, well, I'm a marketer. I have no idea what I'm looking at. Can you explain this to me? How should I interpret this? Okay, great. The CDP does that for you. And then you're like, hey, what if we were to build an audience? Could you do that for me? Sure, here you go. Could you help me activate that? Absolutely. So imagine having that experience in your customer data platform where that generative AI is helping you as a marketer or business professional scale. And of course, data scientists and other people within the organization always have and always will play a vital role, but the demands on their time are huge. The backlog in the queue of getting a data scientist's time is daunting, right? So enabling marketers and business people to have the tools they need to act quick in a real-time environment is really game-changing, and that's where the industry needs to go.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the improvements we'll see in time to market, basically. So getting the insights and the analytics, but also content creation. So you just mentioned Yum, Stellantis as well. We've got 14 global brands. They each have their own voice, their own products. They're meant to be distinguishable from each other. So when you create content, it's got to be that Jeep vibe, it's got to be that Ram trucks legacy, and it's got to be specific to those. But at the same time, we're trying to do personalized experiences for each individual. So the amount of content you need to be able to deliver on demand to give a personalized experience in the brand voice is huge. Yeah. And AI, generative AI, can absolutely get us there faster.
So drilling down a little bit more specifically, let's talk about large language models and how they play a role in some of that branding. So, how do companies grow into the use of such models, of large language models, and what challenges do they face along the way? So at this point, I assume you have a lot of experience working with large language models across some very large brands with distinct styles, as you just mentioned.
So I would say we're just getting started, just to be clear. I think we're still exploring the possibilities this has for enterprise applications. So we've got some POCs going on content creation and on some of the applications we've talked about, like how do you enable your customer service providers to give a great customer experience. So we are just getting started, and I think a lot of the challenges we face are some of the ones that have already come up, which is how do you manage that private data set? This is not proprietary data, it's not open data, so you need to protect it. You need to have that feedback loop so that there is that person at the end of the day saying, yep, this algorithm gave me something that was useful, and if not, what would I have liked to see instead? So you're constantly improving the output to be more useful to the business, but that underlying data set and curating it's a challenge.
Mark, do you have anything to add there?
Yeah, the classic crawl, walk, run maturity concept is obviously vital for AI adoption, like other areas. And as Gail mentioned, she views that she's in the early stages of the journey. I think she's further along than she gives herself credit for, quite frankly. But every company is at a different stage of their journey. You could be starting off with some basic propensity and clustering, or you could get into auto segmentation, clustering, and in real time, establishing the next best action, and then having the activation there to actually capitalize on that opportunity. You have companies at all ranges of the spectrum of maturity. So it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? And it takes time to get there. And the biggest learning that we've seen is just be really clear on your use cases, right? Be really clear on what you're trying to solve, and then experiment.
I want to take a few minutes to talk about the future a little bit. So, Gail, would you kind of describe the vision that you have for not just large language models, but generative AI, generally speaking or broadly speaking. How do you see this impacting the industry going forward? How do you see all of this taking shape? How will it impact Stellantis and either customer personalization or other aspects of the business that really excite you, or that you're excited to see take shape?
Yeah, so some of our priorities right now are really kind of keeping up and staying ahead of the industry in terms of how we sell electric vehicles, which for many people, I know we're in California, so maybe not so much this audience, but a lot of people just don't really know what's going on with these EVs. But Stellantis has committed to 50% of our sales by 2030 are going to be EVs, 100% in Europe are going to be EVs by 2030. So boy, do we have a lot of education to do. So delivering that content and figuring out what the customer pain points are, what is it that they don't understand that's holding them back, and being able to serve up that information when our customer needs it is going to be super important. And then the other piece is really moving into online retail. I don't know how many people have bought a car entirely online, not most of the US population at least. And so we're really building out our digital platforms to give you all the information you need to do your research, make your decision, close the deal, which is really the last mile for us, without having to go into a dealer. Delivered to your driveway, no questions about, am I getting the right thing? Well, what about that other option? Am I getting everything I expect? Is this really the best vehicle for me? And am I getting the best deal? All of that stuff needs to live online, which means people need to be very comfortable making a big transaction sight unseen. So moving into the space of, a digital experience where you're sitting in the car, you're doing a test drive, you're getting all your questions answered in the moment, that is where we're going. And I think a lot of this new technology is going to help us get there.
Wow. Yeah, that's super powerful. So education being a key piece of that experience. Mark, do you have anything to add there about the future, how generative AI will impact personalization?
Yeah, I hear this question out, like, where do you see AI in 3 to 5 years?
Yeah.
Right? And I'm like, how about the next 3 to 6 months, right? Because the pace of change is pretty stifling here. It's moving fast. I think about it from a consumer's perspective. All of us in the room are consumers. In the near future, we're all going to be using generative AI to help us buy things, to shop. Like if you're looking to rent a car or buy a car, the AI assistant will know your preferences, your family, your driving style, where you're going, what's the weather look like in that area that you're going, and will help you, right? I need to get better at gift giving, so I can't wait for a generative AI assistant to help me be a better gift giver, right? That's coming soon. And then think of the implications of that for the brands and for the marketers out there, right? Your consumers will be there very soon. So the question is are you ready for that?
One topic we didn't really touch on yet is ethics, privacy, data leakage. So can you talk a little bit about about these factors in the context of generative AI? How are you thinking about interacting with either foundation models? Are you building your own? Are you do you prefer to work with third-party vendors? Tell me a little bit about how you think about ethics, privacy, data leakage, and some of those categories.
I mean, this is one of the challenges, and so I'm not sure that I have the answer today, and that's why we're doing, crawl, walk, run here. So it's one thing to train these models on your product information. It's another to train it on customer data. So we're still figuring that out. We're still making sure that we can manage our customer data ethically and in the spirit of how our consumers expect us to, while still delivering personalized experiences. So I think that was a non-answer, but the bottom line is that you have to think about it before you put any data into any system, certainly especially a third-party system. But we're definitely working with third-party vendors to explore the possibilities right now.
And Mark, do you have a framework through which you're kind of approaching, the topics of ethics, privacy, data leakage, et cetera?
Critical topics that have been foundational for a long time in managing first-party data, right? There's some very established expectations and principles that companies follow, and obviously Treasure Data is right there with our customers to make sure that they're above and beyond the required standards. So there's just a foundational need for ethics, privacy, data governance that is just part of the foundation of managing first-party data. That obviously doesn't change with AI. Let's just assume that that's at the table when you introduce AI. I think so transparency is critical, consumer consent is critical, how you manage that data is critical. I think there could be a time coming where you may need to be transparent about if you're using AI. And if so, what role did AI play in some outcome or interaction? That could be a potential direction that we head down with AI, but it's moving so quick and it's evolving like in real time. So it's an important topic for all of us to keep an eye on.
Awesome. I want to make sure we give time for questions from the audience. Do we have any out there? It's a little tough to see with these lights. Any questions at all?
Yeah, I was going to ask how you were going to deal with the in-person experience and collecting data from that, but then you kind of said that that was on the way out. When do you fulfill, or not, excuse me, when do you think that that's going to be fulfilled, where more than 50% of the cars will be ordered online?
So it was more than 50% will be EVs. I can't tell you when the offline experience for buying cars will end. I think that's going to be consumer preference as well. And I definitely think that we have to get there with the technology before people feel comfortable not having that dealer experience. So no date set on that, I would say. But then we're still facing the challenge of marrying our offline data. And we get a lot of that. We are working on digitizing a lot more of that information, thanks to the dealers providing us more input. Who did they see? What did they talk about? What did the customer care about? So that we can follow up appropriately. But that's one of the challenges that I don't see ending anytime soon, but that is the goal.
On the data collection at the dealers, do you feel like you might be able to or have to provide data collection points that let the consumer add their information while they're shopping? I mean, maybe in the demonstrator model, you can ask them right there.
Yeah, no, great idea. We do some of that on the service side already. I think we could be doing more on the sales side. Some of what we do is provide the dealers more information for the customer, so it doesn't feel like they're starting over from scratch if they have already provided information to us in a digital environment. And then the goal is to do it vice versa. So the dealers provide us back information about the in-person experience so that within our customer data platform, we can combine the two so that it never feels like the customer is starting over or repeating themselves, so that all of the content and all of the touch points we have is informed by all of that information that the customer has provided.
I think the question is part of AI too, right? You're asking great questions. Insights, what are the trends? What's offline versus online? When's it going to happen? These are all questions that are really the bedrock of AI, right? So Gail and Stellantis and other companies, you're talking about millions and millions of data points from 15, 20, 30 different sources. It's unfathomable how much data we have, and humans cannot process it. We have really important big questions like you just posed there, and I think it's a great time to highlight that's what AI is all about. It's really about helping us find those answers that human beings, we just can't. It's impossible.
Lisa, are you out there somewhere? Is there another question? Okay.
It's very interesting conversation. Just by hearing your talking here, I actually just had some thought. Do you think the pandemic, in a way, boost the growth of AI, ML, because now you have, like as Gail, you mentioned, there's more online transaction compared to offline. People, because of the pandemic, they cannot go outside, so a lot of online transactions and the digitalized data. So in a way, we have more data, so that push the companies to invent more through the AI and ML lens.
So I will say that we were well on our way down the AI and ML journey. Our data science teams were already stood up when the pandemic hit, but the fact that the data is digital now has been revolutionary for us. The fact that people are more comfortable just kind of innately operating online, getting all their research online. I think it really accelerated the fact that more people don't want the in-person experience, that people have been a little bit slower to come back to that offline experience. And so that does make it a lot easier. The data volumes are huge. The data is complicated. We've had to overcome a lot of hurdles to manage the data and govern it. But it has been a boon for what we can do with the data because it is so much easier to process a digital experience than it is an offline experience.
I'd say the pandemic has been a big catalyst for this movement to strategic prioritization too. I mean, we all kind of lived in a cave for a couple years, and then we all come out and we're like, how do we do this? This is the real world again. And we've all lived in our houses, binge watching on streaming services and living on Zoom calls, right? So as humans, the whole world changed for us. Now we're out there again, we're traveling, we're spending money, we're interacting with friends and families. And so it's a matter of what does that experience look like to really get people's attention today? I think getting people's attention, and if you're a brand and you want your consumers to really love you, that has become a harder challenge, I think, and I think the pandemic played a role in that.
So I want to give just, we're coming up on time here, and I want to be conscious of that. I want to give you both an opportunity to share your final thoughts and comments, but before that, want to mention that both Gail and Mark will be available for questions at a roundtable at 12:20 across the hall. So would encourage all of you to stop by, say hi, ask them a question, but with our remaining time, Gail, I'd love to ask, do you have any final thoughts, any final comments, any really important parts of the narrative around generative AI and personalization that you'd like to share with the audience before the end of this panel?
Sure. So I think I'm probably most excited about that speed to market at scale. So there are a million different use cases that we can think of that we want to do, and some of what's holding us back is just our ability to do them efficiently. And to deliver them in a timely fashion to our customers. So I think that is what we're going to be able to overcome using the new generative AI technology by helping give our teams a head start, in a sense. The algorithm can do a little bit more, get us a little bit further down the road. We can spend more time actually analyzing the business problem instead of doing so much of the data munging and the more basic rote operations. So it's going to help us really revolutionize our automated processes so that I think we can just do more quicker.
And Mark, any final thoughts?
I mean, my take is strike while the iron's hot. Everybody's interested in AI right now. Companies are working feverishly to figure out their strategy. What's our game plan? Board members, investors, CEOs, everybody is saying, what are we doing with AI? So I think it's an opportunity for organizations to really kind of come together in a new way. I'd say find your AI gurus if you haven't already. They're everywhere. There's people in your company who are obsessed with this stuff and are way out in front in your own company with your DNA, with your customers in mind. Find those people, harness them, create your AI center of excellence, and make sure it's cross-functional. Get people from all across the business who are excited about this. Use it as an opportunity to have a movement within your company. Right? It's happening. It's happening out there. I think every organization has an opportunity to look inside and use it to your advantage.
Well, Gail, Mark, thank you so much for sharing your insights. I look forward to the roundtable later, and appreciate the questions from the audience. Thank you all so much.